All right. I think we're just going to get down to the nuts and bolts of stuff this morning. So good morning, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. I know some of you it's earlier than others. It's 10 o'clock here in Wichita. We usually do this training every week at a title company here locally, but with the craziness that's going out, we decided to take it and just do everything online for the week. So we'll see what next week brings on whether we're back in person or whether we're going to keep this up. So this week's topic that we were supposed to discuss was ideas about generating more listings. And quick overview of some of the topics that we're going to go through is your sphere and getting repeat and referral clients, leveraging buyers, expireds and for sale by owners, advertising for leads, doing seminars, networking, open houses, and then door knocking. So a little bit about me for those of you guys that haven't met me yet. I've been licensed for 17 years. All 17 years have been in the big city of Wichita, Kansas. I have a husband. I know Marguerite's on here this morning. She actually saw him propose to me in Mexico. So we've been together about 4 years next month. We've got some kids that we share between us, so they're almost grown. So as you can see, my son is 17 and I started 17 years ago. So I used to haul him around in a car carrier when I was out doing my showings. And then this is just a little bit about what I like to do for fun. But about my business, to give you a little overview. So I started in 2002, got my real estate license, and then went to work. And I was the top listing and sales agent for the boutique company that I worked for. It was a family-run business that had been in business since 1908, and I was their Rookie of the Year. It was the largest company at the time in Wichita before KW came on the scene. I was number 42 in the Midwest for Realty Executives in 2009 and just hit my icon for the third time with eXp Realty. So I'm super excited about that. I've had multiple years where I've closed 80 plus transactions. Last year, I focused more on getting dollar figures up. So I did about 60 and did about the same number of volume dollar wise. And I've done a little bit of everything from working in residential to REO. I've had rentals in 3 different states. I've flipped 60 some houses. So there isn't too much at this point in the game that I haven't done on the residential side of real estate. So getting into the meat and potatoes of this, basically your sphere. This has been huge, and I know from talking to a lot of different top producers in the company, this should be 65% of your business. So when we started doing this and really started focusing on this with social media and things like that, and I say we, my husband and I work together every day, we just busted out a notepad and we just started making a list. So these were the things that we sat down and made a list at to expand your SOI. But people that I'd worked with in the past and other jobs that I had before real estate, school yearbooks have been huge for me. I know our group has heard me talk about that several times. We included David's friends when we got together. I just started adding them. You know, this hasn't happened for me yet, but we're getting really close. So your kids, you know, as your kids get older and their friends are going to be in the market to buy, this is something that you'll definitely want to start adding them. Teachers that I've had, teachers that my son has had, I've added them onto my Facebook list. Neighbors, social groups, you know, if you belong to a club or, you know, you go and play golf frequently, that type of thing. The last one is anyone you interact with regularly. So my hairstylist, some of my doctors I have on my SOI. So just people that I go see on a regular basis that would know me if I ran into them at Target or wherever on the street. But from all of the research that I had done in the past, to be the most effective, you're going to need to reach out to these people at least every quarter. So Facebook has made it really simple for us because a lot of the stuff that we're posting, they're seeing. But I think to even be the most effective, it needs to be almost a private reach that you're doing at least once a quarter. With our clients, and I think I might have this on the next page, with our clients, we send out something every month. And it's just something really cheesy. Let me get this.
Not anymore.
Okay, what are you trying to do?
Hold on, I don't know whose it is. It's
What
hot.
you want?
Mute everybody that comments.
Marguerite, how do I mute everybody? I don't see it. Anyway, so with our SOI, we send out a monthly little message to everybody, snail mail, and it's usually something quirky. So last year for St. Patrick's Day, we sent out something with scratch-off lottery tickets, wishing them the luck of the Irish or something similar to that. Usually we tie it in to some kind of event that's going on that month, national event, and then something that's still we can relate back to real estate. So we had, I think April is national, there was a national donut day. So we sent something out that says, do not forget us when you're thinking about buying or selling your next home. And it had some type of coupon to go to a local place to get donuts. So something I saw the other day when I was researching this topic, and I thought this was great and we're going to implement this, is there was a group in Atlanta that I came across that went from 0 deals to 90 million in production in 4 years, only working their SOI. And so every 7th of the month, they would send out a video email to their entire database. The 15th of the month, they sent out a postcard. So we've already got that one covered. The 21st, they sent out an email. And then quarterly, they called every single person. So some of us that have been in the business, that might take a lot longer. But for those of us that are new, that should be a pretty easy phone call to make and just touch base. How's everything going? So mailers, we've already hit on that. Social media interaction. The third one we started implementing last year, and it's actually been a lot of fun. So every time that we're out showing a house in a neighborhood that we have sold someone a house in, I send them a text. And I just say, hey, you know, George, just was thinking of you. We're out showing houses in your neighborhood. How are you doing? Is anything new going on? And it's been really interesting to get the reaction. Hey, it was nice to hear from you. Everything's going good. Our house is a little bit small. We might be getting in touch with you in the next year or so to buy something bigger. So that has been really an easy message. We know who, just like all real estate agents as we're selling stuff, anybody that's in the car with us as we're driving by, I sold that one, I sold that one, I sold that one. So you know where you've sold the houses. So now it's just a matter of texting those people and just staying front of mind with them. Video emails, quarterly emails. This is another one that we do a lot of, is every year after the beginning of the year, we were paper mailing these, but now we can just email the copy of their settlement statement so that they can give it to their accountant and they're not having to dig for it. And then just anybody that you interact, I think that one was a carryover from the last one. So anybody that you interact with regularly. But those are the main things that we've been doing a lot of that's generated a good amount of listing leads for us. So the next one is something that we just did a big mail out on. So when you're not finding a house for your buyer, because I'm sure most of you guys are very similar to our market where you're buyer heavy and you're short on the listings. So what we just did, we have a specific buyer who's very particular and they only want one certain neighborhood. And so when we weren't finding the house for them, we actually sent out postcards to every single house in that neighborhood. And it just said, more or less, we have qualified buyers that are looking for a home in your neighborhood. If you've thought about selling, give us a call. So this was a sample from Tom Ferry on a quick message. He believes in handwriting everything and stamping it. And the one thing that I thought was a pro tip that he included was including a link to your reviews with your bio and everything from Zillow or from whatever page that you guys get the most reviews on, whether that be Google or Zillow or Yelp or whatever. But I thought that was smart. So the next time I send something out, this is what we're going to work on. Everything else that we send out is usually, it's handwritten. I have a huge callus to prove it. So number 3, expireds and for sale by owners. There are services to find people's phone number if this is the topic that you're going to focus on. And what I will tell you is pick a couple of these and really implement them and get good at them and then add to it. Don't go, I'm going to do all 8 of these today and spread yourself too thin. But the names of these companies that provide these are just a couple of them. I have used Land Voice, but when I built my business, things were it was a lot easier to find phone numbers. So that was what I did, is every night I would stay up until 12:01 midnight when all of the listings showed up expired, and I would find who the owners were, phone numbers for them back in the day that we still had home phones. And I would get on the phone and I would just make phone calls and just say, hey, I didn't know if you were still interested in selling your house on Main Street. And they would tell me, yeah, I'm still interested in selling it. It's on the market. I'm like, oh, actually, your agent hasn't called you. And I wound up with a lot of listings just doing it that way. But the other things that you can do is, if you can't find the phone numbers and you're not wanting to or can't afford these lower services, send them something in the mail. And the thing with mail is, don't just send them one thing, send them multiple things. One letter going out first thing with everybody else that sent them one letter on an expired or one postcard isn't going to be enough to cut it. It's going to need to be 2 or 3 times within a 2 or 3 month period, and watching those properties to see if they've came back on to the market. Another suggestion is, if it's something that's your neighborhood and you really focus on that, or if you have somebody that's interested in buying that specific house or something that was like that. I've done this before. I couldn't get a hold of somebody, couldn't find a phone number for them, and I've knocked on their door and wound up, put it together. So it's just a matter of how bad you want it. You know, things are a little nuts right now with door knocking necessarily, but when things chill out, a good option to find expireds and for sale by owners. Some of you guys were on the lead gen thing that I taught last week with Marguerite, and we were talking about for sale by owners. Partner up with a lender. Go to Zillow. It has all of the different names of people, or housing addresses, and the names of the owners and a phone number. I had the lender calling them. Hey, just wanted to offer you some flyers about your house and some different payment options for those flyers. And it broke the ice. They weren't selling them anything. They were offering them something. And then what happened is, over the course of the time, she was continually following up with them. Somebody was huge pregnant. They couldn't coordinate their schedule with their husband very well to show the house. She wasn't comfortable showing it by herself. So therefore, she was venting basically to the lender. And the lender's like, I have an agent that you should call and just get your house on the market. So we wound up listing her house. We wound up selling her a new house. But that's something that you could do with anybody. I mean, if you have a home inspector that you're really tight with, have the home inspector calling them and offering them flyers or whatever for their house. And that way it breaks the ice, and you become a referral. You become the expert because these other experts are recommending you. So advertising, Facebook, obviously, that's where the bulk of people are nowadays, especially when we're all being stuck in our house. But social proof videos. David and I were talking about this the other day, because that company that I mentioned that I worked for 17 years ago, they had a listing a year ago in our market, and they had it priced at $100,000 for this little condo, and they didn't sell it. So this year I went out, met with the owner, who was a referral, and we listed it for 110 and sold it the first day. And it was because we went in, we did some staging, and it dramatically improved the look of the house. And when I say staging, we just hung some stuff on the walls and put some things out on the table, that sort of stuff. But it would be awesome for us now to do a quick video and boost it on our Facebook business ad that, look, we had this listing, another local company had it for a year, we sold it for $10,000 more. Get in touch with us to find out what our strategies are. So this is something that we are going to work on implementing a lot more of this year, because so much is going video based. It's getting so many more clicks than just the photos that we've been doing in the past. But we do a lot of landing pages, about find out what your home's value is worth using KV Core, and then attracting people to click and try to find out what their houses are worth. Zillow is one of the places that we do advertise, and as most of you probably know, Zillow owns Trulia. And when we first started advertising about 3 years ago on Zillow, I picked a very inexpensive zip code to advertise in, thinking that people in higher price points have already bought houses, therefore they would already have an agent. I have found out that I was so wrong with that. So instead of focusing, like I was mentioning earlier, we did 20 less deals, but did the same amount of volume this year. We have increased our spend on Zillow, and we've been marketing into higher price points, and those people usually have a house to sell. So like right now we've got about $1 million under contract from this, and they had to sell houses, so we wound up getting listings from it. The next thing is you can start sending out some kind of marketing to letters to vacant houses or investors. So if you can find, like I just went to our county tax page and I went through different streets because ours is kind of hard to navigate. But I typed, so we live on Ridgewood, and I typed 100 to 500 Ridgewood. And so it gave me all the north and the south addresses. And I just looked at all the taxes and the ones that were being mailed to other places other than that one specific house. I sent letters to the address that their taxes are being mailed to. I don't know if they're a rental. I don't know if they're in an estate. I don't know what the situation is, but we've been mailing to them. So this is something that I will probably do quarterly. And it wasn't necessarily salesy, and I'll post it with this link when we have the recording done. But it was just something to the effect of, I am the local neighborhood expert, and I just wanted to introduce myself. I saw that you own this house and that your taxes are being mailed to a different address. And I just wanted to see if I could provide you with a list of contractors or market analysis or anything else that that might be helpful to you owning multiple properties. Just listed and just sold postcards. This was huge for our business. Every time we listed something, we sent out just listed. And every time we sold something, we sent out just sold. I had one in the last couple of months that we sold 2 of them in the same golf course community in 30 days. So I bundled those together, and I actually did an every door direct mailer to that entire neighborhood. It was a little more expensive than the usual 100 that I send out, but we wound up with 2 listing appointments from that. And one of the listing appointments, we actually wound up buying to fix up and resell. So that was beneficial. And what I used to do in the past, let's go back to that so you can see my creating the databases. I used to just handwrite them all out, and I didn't think anything of it. And then I hired an assistant, and she's like, we need to put these on an Excel spreadsheet, mail merge, blah, blah, blah. So she started doing those. Then I could track which ones came back and take them off of the mailing list and add another one. This has turned into something that whenever my son needs money, he's excellent at making these databases at this point. So I've put him to work. He's the one that does all these databases for me. On the neighborhood mail out that we just did, he's the one that went through everybody in that neighborhood, and he's the one that put them out on Excel spreadsheets for me. So cheap labor for a 17-year-old. Some seminars. So you're putting together a function, and it could be any type of function. One, it could be, are you wanting to downsize? This is something that we actually had on our books until things have gotten a little nutty lately. So we'll postpone and come back to this. But you know, the population is getting older, and all these neighborhoods that I already have databases for now that have a lot of 2-stories, that's who our focus is going to be on. You could do something about repairing your credit to become another buyer or another seller, because people that already own houses have had issues that their credit's been ruined. So you're just basically networking again, but you're doing it in a seminar setting where you're the expert. You can bring in other experts on these different topics and networking from their database in your database. You could have a listing seminar on how to sell your house for top dollar, which kind of goes into the networking thing. This has been really big for our business. So networking, I know we talked about this in the lead gen class last week. Agent to agent. I never had even thought about this before coming to eXp, but now that I've been to all of the events and we're networking and we're meeting people, usually at the bar, It's you're hanging out and you're building that camaraderie with them. And it's not even necessarily that they have the people that they're sending to us, but when they see someone else on Facebook say, hey, we need an agent in Wichita, Kansas, I'm the first one. And if I ever see somebody that needs an agent in Northern California, I'm the first one to tag Marguerite. So it's just a matter of building those relationships, because this is totally a relationship business, and sending it out, referring it out to other people. So divorce attorneys, this could even be a seminar topic. You know, are you going through a divorce? What are your next steps? Blah, blah, blah. You could have them lead the seminar. You could be their expert on selling houses. So our attorney that we have both used for this exact topic is going to hopefully help us with our some future networking things that we're wanting to do. He also does estate planning. So when we do our downsizing, it's going to be something that we can ask him to be an expert. We can ask him for his database of people over a certain age that we're going to send out invites to. Estate sale companies. We've actually had multiple referrals from networking with estate sale companies. So every week or every month, we do a business mixer, and it's called Booze and Business Cards. It's really simplistic. We don't charge anybody for B&I or anything like that. They just come, they buy their own drinks, we hand out our business cards, and we just build relationships. So that's where some of these things have even come into play. But staging companies, and this one has been really big, is contractors. So these are, we definitely invite contractors to our business mixer. But we even have a couple of agents within our group that mainly just do contracting, but now they have their real estate license and they're sending us referrals. Or we've made friends with a guy that does a lot of trash hauling, and people are calling him before they list to get rid of all the junk in their house. And so he has sent us multiple leads, and when they send us the leads, we send them a really nice gift card to probably the nicest steakhouse in Wichita as a thank you. So we want to make sure that they're getting recognized for sending us the referrals that they're sending to us. So these are some of the ways that we've been networking and getting to know these people. Something else on the agent to agent, if you're in a market where there is a lot of influx or outflux of people coming in and out of your market, I would definitely start networking with agents that are in those other markets so that you guys can have a lot of repeat and referral that you guys are referring to out to each other. Open houses. We just picked up a really nice buyer from this, but on the listing side, these are a couple of things that we do. And I know I shared this in Marguerite's group, so I do have a video on what we do for our open houses, and I can include that with this. But market analysis coupons, I just had some postcards printed, and it just says that it's good for one, you know, free market analysis of their property. I put it in my open house on the upper end stuff that we're selling in our folder so that they can have that with them. We also have put together a marketing list. These are all of the things that we do to sell your house: professional photography, custom brochures, blah, blah, blah. And that way, a lot of other agents aren't doing that stuff still in our market. I don't understand it, but a lot of them are not doing professional photography and different things. So if they see our marketing list and they've talked to anybody else, then hopefully that could be the trigger of them coming back and talking to us more about listing their house. The other thing that we include a lot of in our open house packets is, here's a list of all the houses in the area that are for sale. One, it shows that you're familiar with all of the other houses that are in the market that are for sale to neighbors and sellers that are coming in. But the other side of it is now you've got a whole list of other properties that you could go show these buyers that are coming through your open houses, because a lot of people don't understand that we don't just show, you know, we can show anybody's listings. So we send a list of open houses in our open house folder that we give out. We've had a lot of fun with this. We've done private neighborhood open houses. So we've actually done these before, like on a Friday night or a Thursday night before our actual open house. And we just get a big bag of ice, we dump it in the sink, we put some bottles of beer in the sink, we have some wine, couple of trays of food, and we send out an actual invitation to all of the neighbors to come and be nosy and see what their neighbor's house looks like. So then comes the last topic that we'll have on here, and then we can answer questions, discuss, but door knocking. So this is what we've done. We've invited people to an open house, and we have the invitation. We actually hand it to them. We tell them about a house that we just listed. We have a flyer and we hand it to them. We make a joke that they can help us by picking their neighbor instead of us just finding a random one for them. If we have a buyer that we're looking for a house, we're knocking those doors exactly like what I was saying about sending out the postcard. These are nice things because they really don't cost anything. This is just sweat equity, where the postcards, you know, you're spending a couple $100s to send out 500 postcards to a neighborhood. And we've even done this. So as we're saying, hey, we have somebody that's looking in your neighborhood. I don't know if you're familiar with what's going on in your market, in your neighborhood. Here's a list of recent sales, so that we're not just trying to pull the wool over their eyes and get some smoking deal for our buyer. We actually have a list so that they feel better protected and comfortable to talk to us. So those are the main things that we've done for door knocking. I know I kind of rambled through this really quick. It's odd to just sit here and look at a screen and talk. So what questions do you guys have for me on any of these topics? And if you want, I'll go back to the, I don't know how to go back to the main screen and then split it with me being on there.
Lesley, just click on stop sharing your screen.
Okay. Now I see you.
Yay.
But I don't think that my video thing is still working, but I haven't figured it out yet.
What do you mean your video thing? It's recording.
Are you seeing me though?
No, I don't think you have your video on.
Yeah, I couldn't get it to work when I was doing yours last.
So you should be able to click at the three little dots in the right hand of where,
Yep.
top right hand of where your face is, and it
Yep.
should say start video.
Well, it's recording, so if I hit it, it doesn't say start, it says stop video.
No, well, that means that there's something wrong with your webcam, because if it's saying stop video, that means it thinks it's recording. I mean, it thinks that you have video on and you don't.
So basically, I fixed my hair, put some makeup on it, and a shirt for no reason 2 times now.
But there's got to be something in your video part. So
I'll have to mess with it for next week.
yeah. So I just wanted to point out, I put it in the chat that one thing to keep in mind right now with your listings is it's kind of something we got away from, is measuring rooms.
Yeah.
But I recommend you start measurements of rooms and stuff, and have, when you're getting your pictures done, do 3D and Matterport if you can. It'll be a little bit extra money. But right now, with people not being able to actually physically go out and see homes, I'm going to talk about it on the webinar I'm doing today at 12:30. But I was talking about doing, you know, virtual open houses, or doing FaceTime with your clients, or whatever you can use if you have a Droid. You know, different things like that can really be essential in these times right now, where people may not be able to go out and do the things that they've done historically.
You know, and the one thing I like to do instead of FaceTime is we actually go out, we do a video on our phone, and then we upload it to YouTube. Takes a little bit of time, but the thing I really like about it is they can go back through and review it multiple times, where on our FaceTime, it's just a one and done. And so that
That's
way,
great.
if
I'm going
there's
to add
cracks
that.
or
That's smart.
so we've been doing a lot of that. And we do that for our avatar. Okay, so how do I see the chat on here, Marguerite?
So at the bottom, there where you see like stop, share, and all that, there's one box that says chat, where it might be under more. If you click under more,
Crystal,
you should be able to see.
I'm hoping that we'll be able. It says it's recording, so we'll find out.
Yeah, it's showing recording, so you should be able to, Lesley, go into, after the call is over, you'll go, it'll take about an hour or so to process, and then it will create a link that you can post.
Okay.
If you need
Awesome.
to edit it, you can also edit it. Like sometimes if you're yakking at the beginning, you know, or I do stuff at the beginning and forget them on video, so you may want to review the beginning before you post it.
Funny.
just telling you from my experience.
So where would you say in those 8, Marguerite, that you get most of your questions?
For sure, my database. I mean, yesterday I spent the good part of my day reaching out to I started with any of my sellers and buyers first, to just say, hey, how are you doing? How you feeling? And most of my buyers and sellers were fine. One is freaking out. But you know, for the most part, the second thing is my database is huge. I mean, the majority of my business comes from database. And I do, as you know, a lot of parties and client events and things like that. I do a lot of it with my database. But over the last year or two, I've gotten a lot of business from my business connections.
Yeah.
So again, real estate agents across the country. And even if you guys don't travel and go to events, you've all got Facebook friends. Start actually reaching out to them, private message them, call them, talk to them, connect with them. Don't just, you know, bypass them on, scroll through on Facebook. Like, now's the time to really reach out to people.
I've told all of our agents, I'm like, if you see somebody and they work for eXp, friend request them. And you know, obviously watch them for a little bit, see if it's somebody you're interested in even engaging with. But, you know, overall, it's just a matter of, it's a numbers game, and it's a networking and relationships game. So there's a lot of people to network within, whether it's our company or whether it's a different company. But really, where do you get the majority of your listings from? She's looking at me like, what? Good morning.
Right now, yeah, same. It's sphere of influence. You know, I've still got one in high school, so it's a lot of friends, parents of my kids' friends, and just trying to keep in touch with all of them. A lot of them are turning into empty nesters very soon. You know,
Yep.
the last one's exiting high school, and it's huge. You know, they want to downsize. So I would say yes. And in referrals too, you know, referrals from friends too, but definitely listing sides always, yeah, it's sphere of influence. So I have some questions for you too. I just can't seem to type in the chat for some reason.
Okay. I love that I'm not the only one that's tech challenged.
I'm clicking on the chat and I can't type in there. I don't know.
If you click on it and then look to the right of it, you should build, and then there's a little box at the very bottom. You have to click on the little box. You can type in it.
It's normally right there, and I don't know why. I just had some little specific questions about things you said.
Okay.
First, video email. What are you using? Are you using BombBomb or something else to get that video into an email, or are you just using a link, or do you use like
I
BombBomb?
have been using BombBomb.
You have? Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I figured. It's probably the best. Okay. And then you talked about open houses. So you're providing folders for these people that are coming in. Like, are you using your full eXp folder and putting all those things in it for each and every guest?
Yep. It's been such a no-brainer. I really had a hard time with it in the beginning because I'm like, oh my God, we're spending, you know, this much money to put this folder together. At this point, I think we've been talking about on this next batch of folders that we do, I'm going to reach out to business partners and see if they will subsidize some of it. Because when we put our folders together, it's basically got some things that we've printed out from Breakthrough Brokers. So there's a pinwheel on one side that talks about the buyer's side of things, and then there's like a roadmap. That's what it's actually called in Breakthrough Brokers. So it's a roadmap for a buyer. And on the flip side of it, we put the roadmap for the seller. So we just always we've printed them double-sided, and that way I always have what I need. And you never know, sometimes we were showing up, you know, to meet with new clients, and then they start having a whole bunch of selling questions because they've got something to sell. Now I can just flip it over and not worry about if I needed the other sheet or not. We've got a sample of a home warranty. We've got some lending info in there. We've got home inspector info in there, insurance agent flyers. I mean, like the whole gamut. And that's part of what we're doing networking wise.
Sure. Makes sense.
So, you know, I really feel like, and I just haven't asked, but I feel like at this point we've referred enough business to these folks that I don't think they'd really have any problem helping buy some folders or helping pay for some print or whatever, so
Right.
that their information is still in the folder. But those have been such money for us. David was like, you know, people want to get something. David ran a different business before he came into real estate with me 4 years ago. And he's like, people want something in their hand when they leave. And I had never really thought about it. I just did it. I did things really like old school. And it was like, this is the way I've always done it, and it works. And so we started putting these folders together. And what was really interesting is we started doing them at our open houses, and we're like, hey, you know, welcome to the open house. Here's the flyer. My name's Lesley. Go ahead and look through the house. And if you have any questions, you know, make sure you ask before you head out. And then we would kind of stop them. And it was just basically our script. It was like, oh, by the way, are you a first-time buyer? If we were in a first-time buyer price range. And they're like, yeah, okay, before you leave, I've got a whole packet of stuff for you before you leave. And they're like, okay. So then they would come back up, and we would sit and go through the entire process on that roadmap with them. And they're like, oh man, that's awesome. I didn't know that we didn't pay you. And I didn't know how this inspection thing would go down. And nobody else has taken the time to really explain it to us. And so it never failed. After almost every open house we've done, we would get a call, and they're like, hey, we wanted to talk to you about going and looking at some other houses. And David was really good at asking them. He's like, so why did you pick us? And like, you were the only one that took the time to really walk us through the process. And we make jokes about it when we're doing that. It's like, you know, if you choose to work with us, that's great. If you don't choose to work with us, then you need to make sure you're picking one agent to work with, so that there's not multiple agents fist fighting in the front yard over you. And we just laugh, and we make it like just very chill. And they show up, and they continue to work with us. And usually it's been funny when we've looked back on it. It's a lot of analytical clients because they wanted the information, but they're usually the ones that make the most money too. So, and their credit is easier because they're on top of things. And so we've got one right now that we're out looking for houses for, that's an engineer, same exact thing, but he came through open house. But now we're doing it on the, like, we've got houses that are about double what our average is. And as they come through, we give them the flyer, we give them a couple of tidbits about the house, and then let them go through. And then, you know, hey, we've got a packet of information for you before you head out. It's not, are you a first-time buyer? And then I just open the packet before I hand it to them and say, okay, here's what's in here. And, you know, have you bought a house recently? Because if you haven't, this roadmap might be a good refresher course for you. And then they'll start giving you their information. It's like, oh yeah, we bought one 2 years ago. Cool. You know, is it here in Wichita? What neighborhood do you live in? Is it a lot different than this one? And you just start asking them questions, and they just start telling you everything you never wanted to know. And then on the buyer side, or on the selling side of it, you're getting all of their data, whether they wanted to sign in or not. They're telling you everything that you needed to know. So that's really how we're capturing a lot of leads and a lot of information, is going through that packet with them and giving them something instead of just trying to get information from them. So they've proved their weight in gold as far as we're concerned. I'll send you our video on that.
You know what? I watched your video like 6 months ago. It's you and David kind of sitting in chairs.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you inspired me to, I use those folders when I meet new buyers, but I've never used them in an open house. I didn't like, oh, that's too much money. Like to have all those folders, you know, 25 people are going to take a whole pack of folders. So, but I've always, after your video, thank you, because you went through everything that you put in it and all of that. So that's really helped me a lot on the buy side. I just don't use them for open houses, but I will. Yeah.
The breakthrough broker brochures that they have, we use the luxury brochures on the nicer listings, and they're a little pricier too, but I want the neighbors to go, dang, her stuff looks way better than the other one that we just went through down the street. All they handed me was an MLS sheet.
Yeah.
Because, you know, most people are proud of their house when they go to sell it, and they've got an emotional attachment to it, and they want the best light shown on their house. And so I'm willing to spend the money up front and put all of our information in their hands. And we have found that, you know, like an MLS sheet, they're just going to throw it away. A business card, they're just going to throw it away. But a whole folder, for whatever reason, I think people have a hard time chucking a whole folder at one time into the trash. So,
and you guys think about it. Think about the cost breakdown. So let's just say, worst case scenario, that package and all the paperwork in it at 10 cents a copy or whatever comes out to like $2.50.
yeah.
And so if you hand it out, you know, 10 of them, you spent $25. The truth is most people will not actually take them, not as many as you think will take them. And so if you did an open house every weekend and spent $50, that's $100 a weekend. If you did 2, you spent $400 a month, or go run a Zillow ad.
Right. I mean, we're all paying for leads one way or another.
Yeah, so it is, I mean, I understand the cost, and trust me, I know right now everyone needs to be cost conscious. But I think sometimes we get really focused on the cost in the wrong direction. And so, you know, there's ways that you can do things cheaper too. You don't necessarily, you get 20 free folders when you join eXp, but I'm sure you've already burned through those. I know I did. But, you know, there's lots of ways that you can get creative. Those, like I think Lesley mentioned, get your business partners to share the cost with you. Get your lender, you know, to pay, you know, to buy a stack of folders for you. Get your title people to, you guys can do it in your states. We can't do it here, but, or get people to contribute to the package, right? Like provide their own brochures and their own information. And, but you know, if you said, hey, for $500 a month, I'm going to be passing out, you know, 50 folders a weekend. Would you be willing to kick in $50 or, you know, $100 to help me pay for the stuff? That's where you can start to get creative.
Yeah. And we do ask, you know, are you working with an agent? And if they're working with an agent, obviously I'm not handing them a packet of information. So that kind of eliminates those and the spend on that too. So, and it's funny because we've had some people that have sat there and watched us go through the information after they said they're already working with an agent, probably because their agent has never explained the process to them. So, you know, you think about that, and if people are seeing that and they're not getting that same service, it could potentially be that they wind up calling you and doing something different as far as an agent goes. So they just don't feel like they're getting the same information, same education. They could still choose you. But yeah, open houses, we've implemented the folders, and it's been awesome. And all the neighbors are, we had a condo open house, not last weekend, but the weekend before, and we had probably 30 sets of people, and the bulk of them were neighbors. And I made sure every one of them left with one of my really nice brochures about the property.
You know, you guys get creative on who you're asking to. We have a tendency to ask the same people to kick in cash, right? You know, instead of your lenders, talk to your heat and air people, talk to your solar people. If you guys have solar in your area, they're willing to spend all kinds of money right now. Talk to, you know, your plumber or your carpet cleaner or your landscapers, and see if they'll kick in just maybe $25, right? You get like 5 or 10 of those people to kick in, you know, $25. You've gotten things paid for, far beyond what, you know, you were hoping for. Sorry, my dogs are going crazy. I live out in the country.
I mean, I think especially if you've given those people a lot of referrals, I don't know why they would have any issue helping expand your database of people.
And don't be embarrassed to ask for money. I mean, that's advertising dollars. And, the way you approach it is like, look, I'm doing an open house. Every weekend I'm getting anywhere from 10 to 25 people through. That means you're going to be exposed to people that I'm going to have the opportunity to say, hey, this guy does a great job. Please use me, right? And he's contributing to the folders.
Yeah, like a whole.
What's that?
All your dogs.
Oh my God. Sorry. Let me mute myself. They're obnoxious.
Does anybody else have any other questions for any of us? Or just for group discussion?
I'd like to know more about your downsizing seminar that you had planned. You don't have to go into the whole detail, or maybe, so it sounds like you're working with an attorney, like an estate planning attorney, and you're talking to people about
Yes.
the financial side of it.
Well, so our plan is to have, we have one lender here in town that has been really focused on these HECM loans. It's like a reverse mortgage, but it's for purchase. It's not for like refinance. And he's got really good at them. He is the expert really pretty much for the state at this point. So I wanted him to come and have a discussion about that, have Jeff have a discussion about estate planning. I have done $500,000 worth of real estate business recently with a guy from Edward Jones. He was talking about how they will lend, you can borrow against your Edward Jones account for your down payment without actually pulling out of your Edward Jones account. So there was some different strategy that he could have. An estate sale company. And the whole thought process behind this is, one, I'm going to use the farm areas that I'm already using that have a lot of the 2 stories. But these guys could also be inviting, my Edward Jones guy can look through his portfolio of people and go, okay, this is everybody that's 55 or 60 plus in age. And he could be sending out invites. I mean, I just figured we would all co-brand everything that we were doing. And that way, if I sent something out to them and they don't know me, then it's a really cold invite. Where if now they see Christian's smiley face on this invite, then they go, oh, Christian's hosting this. And so everybody would pool their database to get the people there. I've done this also with my insurance agent. I have a local insurance agent, and I've went through when they rolled out grant money for first-time buyers, and I said, I want everybody that has a renter's policy with you. I want your database. And then him and I and a lender co-branded, and we sent out postcards, about this no money down loan for buying a house. Because now if they're Alex's client, it's a warm lead because they see Alex on there and they already trust him and they already do business with him. So now it looks like he's recommending me and recommending the lender. So it turned into, some buyers that we wouldn't have normally had. And even if I would have sent something to their house, they wouldn't have known me and had that same warm reaction that they had seeing Alex's face. Plus, we divided the cost of it. So it was, and Alex even had his admin calling all of them, hey, you're going to be getting something in the mail, blah, blah, blah. Don't just throw it away. There's some awesome grants out there that you can buy a house potentially with no money down. And so he warmed it up before they ever even had the postcard. So one, it was a reason to contact for him. Two, if they bought something, it was going to be a lot bigger paycheck for him than their renter policy. So it just was a win-win for everybody that participated. So that's what we've been really focused on doing a lot more of, is just co-branding so that it's a warmer pool of people that we're dealing with instead of just us sending out a bunch of stuff to neighborhoods.
I love it. Are you having them at one of their offices, or where do you typically hold these seminars?
Well, I haven't yet on this one. So I was looking at doing it. Both of them, of the neighborhoods that I was heavily focusing on, we were talking about doing, so Wichita is really goofy. You can get anywhere in Wichita in about 20 minutes, but it's very divided. You're either west side or you're east side. That's just and we're going to complain about driving 15 minutes from one way to the other way. But so what we were thinking is doing one east and one west. We're wanting to focus on some higher end neighborhoods for listings. So a couple of the areas that I focus really heavily on, they're in golf course communities. So we were actually talking to one of them about doing it at their clubhouse.
Nice.
So then it's a familiar setting for them, hopefully. And I want it to look upscale. So that was a thought process. I mean, I think a title company, I think at any of their offices, if they had a facility big enough, I don't know how many people are going to show up on this. So that's my concern. I'd rather have a smaller room and have it look a lot more exciting than 4 people in a room that holds 100. So it's still been kind of up in the air, and we'd been working on it until, groups of 10 aren't advised together.
Yeah, soon.
Makes it hard.
Yeah, it does. Well, that's all I have. Thank you so much for this. This has been great.
Yeah, I have a question for you on your listing. So as far as what you're doing with your sphere and your kids as friends' parents, are you marketing to them? Are you just being at the events?
Not really. It's all really Facebook, to be perfectly honest with you. It's like, I don't know, it's my best database. I haven't been very structured in doing emails or anything like that. It's more just, people seeing what I'm doing on Facebook, or my kids telling me, hey, so-and-so's mom said such and such, getting the inside scoop, but I'm not doing anything structured or regular for that. And I could probably do so much better if I did. I don't even know, like some of them I probably don't even know if I have their emails. So I'd probably be well-versed to just get, in this kind of downtime sort of when we're kind of here at home, to maybe get that together and focus more heavily on it. And maybe, I'm thinking, one's a sophomore, so, there's a whole new, up and coming there, but that, the senior all night party is a big thing, right? That's when you volunteer for that end of the year party, really get to know the people. So it's all just been more, face to face and Facebook, not necessarily emails or phone calls. Really.
So Julie, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is today.
Oh, right.
Like literally open whatever database program you have.
I just have two, like I've got Lion Desk, I got KV Core, there's, it's like, I just need to.
So let me explain to you how I do things.
Okay.
I don't put any of my clients or anything in KV Core. I use that as a lead generation platform.
I could get my sphere out of my lead gen KV Core. I just got to
think of things in 2 ways. You have your lead generation platforms, which is usually cold or advertising or things like that. Once they actually become a client, somebody I'm speaking to or have a conversation with, I put them in my database, which I know you guys use Lion Desk. I use all clients. Doesn't matter which one you use. My point is, I don't put my personal sphere and database in a company owned or sponsored database. Not because I don't love them, but because I want full control over my data. So once they become somebody like my family, friends, agents, people that I work with or have a connection or relationship with, I put them in my database. I leave everybody else in KV Core until something comes of it. And then I just go back and forth in making calls. I make 10 calls out of my database, 10 calls out of KV Core, 10 calls out of my database. And then as soon as I start having a conversation with them, I move them into my database.
So when you're making those calls, what are you calling them about? Give me a sample of what you would say.
So outside of the craziness right now, what I would normally do is if it's in my database, I'm simply just calling and saying, hey, how have you been? What's new? What's going on with you? How's life? How's the house? If it's a past client, I'm like, hey, have you guys done anything to your house? That kind of stuff. If it's a a person who has reached out and said they want to buy or sell, I'll call and I'll say, hey, how are things going? Any updates with, if you guys are selling or buying? But I keep it very casual and how's life? What's new? How's work? How's the kids? That kind of stuff. If it is somebody in KV Core lead, I'll be calling and saying, hey, this is Marguerite. I just want to check in with you on what's going on in the market. Couple updates. I just came across 2 really hot properties that are maybe not on the market yet. Is a great way to get people to return a call. It's a great text too. Hey, I just came across a hot property I think might make sense for you. Shoot me a message or give me a call. You want to leave messages or send text messages that require a response and are not salesy, right? Like if you got a message from me that says, hi, this is Marguerite. I have 22 properties that are available for sale right now. Which one would you like to buy? I'm probably not going to respond. But if you say, hey, I just came across a hot buy that is not on the market yet, or it just went on the market an hour ago, or I just, happened to be out on tour and came across a property that I think might be a really hot bargain for you right now. Are you interested? You're going to respond to that.
Right. That's smart. Well,
but you guys don't get caught up. Number one, don't get caught up in what to say. You're not making the call anyway. So just make the call and say something. Hello. How are you? Like, what's going on? What's new with you? How's work? How's the kids? How's something? Like, we spend way more time planning what we're going to say and not making the calls. So that's what's most important is you just got to pick up the phone and call.
I think that's true with most any of this. I mean, it's not necessarily a matter what the postcard says. It's just the fact that the postcard wants.
Yeah, it's just do something. Like that's what I hope you guys hear. And I'm sorry if I'm coming across rough or not, but you got to do something. Like we're all in this like mode of like we're planning to prepare. We're going to do it someday. And someday passes and then everyone's complaining because they're broke. Well, you had plenty of opportunity. What you're doing today is 90 days out. So you have to you got to force yourself. Start with the fun calls. Like call me first, call somebody that is going to be, help you out or pump you up or will make you laugh or put on like goofy dance music. I don't know, but you just have to do it.
Yep. Agreed.
Said with love.
I love that about you. All right. Anybody else have any questions? We're wrapping up our hour. But I want to make sure if you have any questions, you get them answered because you got some. I mean, with Marguerite on here answering questions and Julie and some of these other guys that are here, I mean, there's a wealth of knowledge here. You're welcome, Echo.
Hey, quick thing I wanted to say on calls too. So when I'm making my calls, I am not just calling leads. I mean, I will call other agents around the country. I will call past clients. I will call current clients. I'll call my lenders. I'll call my escrow people. And I literally count all those as calls. Now, someday I will make too many calls to agents and not enough calls to clients. But the fact is I still feel accomplished that I actually talked to 10 or 20 or whatever amount of people was my goal that day. Some days I just don't want to deal with clients. I'm being honest, right?
Right.
Or I don't want to make those calls. So I'll call other people that I know I'm going to enjoy that call. I'll call, again, eXp agents around the country. I'll call, again, my checking in with my vendors and my people to see how they're doing and what I can do to help them. And what I can promise you, and you guys can all test this and tell me if I'm lying or not. What I promise you is that if you make the calls, you will see the business start to come in. It might not always come in from the people that you've called, but energy creates energy. And you will see people, I mean, it will blow your mind. I promise you, if you make 20 calls today, all of a sudden you'll get a random call from somebody and they'll say, hey, I'm thinking, like it just happened to me yesterday. A client who I've not talked to in probably a year called me up, Adrian. He said, Marguerite, how are you? I haven't talked to you in a while. Hey, by the way, my daughter is getting pre-approved right now with your lender and wants to buy her first home. I did not call him. He called me, but I had been making all my calls, and it's just how the universe, or whatever God you believe in, works, is that if you're doing the work, it will start to come back from other areas. I don't know how to explain it. I just know it is.
That's what we always say. We're just putting it out in the universe, and you put so much energy into the universe that it has to show back up. So
test
okay.
it. I challenge all of you to make 20 calls today. Talk to 20 people, and then watch what happens in the next 48 hours and let me know.
Okay, before we sign off of here, give them a little intro about what you're going to discuss today and when it's going to be.
So today at 12:30 my time, which is what's that, 2:30 your time, and that's 2:30 your time, and then 3:30 Julie's time. I am doing how to survive and thrive in a challenging world right now. And having been 26 years in real estate, I'm going to talk about what's happened all the other times we've been in similar, obviously this is uncharted territory right now, but we've been in very similar situations. So I'm going to talk about lots of ways to, some of the big mistakes I made during the last couple crises, and hopefully how you guys can avoid those, and some tips and tricks on what you can do to survive all of this craziness.
I'm looking forward to hearing it, because it's totally uncharted. I mean, it's like David and I were talking about this yesterday. It's like there's no one on this planet that you could actually call and say, oh, well, we've already been through this. This is how it turned out. So it's just a different.
Well, we just found out. We just found out today that some of our local county recorders' offices are not open.
Oh, they
So
closed all of our city buildings.
And we can't record them.
Oh, geez.
So it's like, oh, now what do we do? We're like, I don't know. So yeah, we're going to talk about what we need to do. I don't obviously have all the answers, but I have, some ideas and thoughts on what we can do. So I hope to see you guys all there today.
All right. Sounds like a plan. I'll see you then. Thanks. And hopefully I'll have
Awesome.
my
Thank
video
you.
working by then. Thanks for all your help.
Thank you. Thanks,
Bye,
Leslie.
guys.
All right. I'll help you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everybody.